and send a notice out. And check to see. Okay, we are live. Very nice. Okay, good to see everybody. 1 second. And now we are going to chant. Sorry. Okay. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Taruni Mandala Maite Kula Taruni Mandala Maite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Tamodharati Vardhana Veshe Adina Skutavinda Vipineshe Tamodharati Vardhana Veshe Adina Skutavinda Vipineshe Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Vishabandhari Namasashi Leke Lanta Sati Guna Ramita Visake. Let me just change something here. Hold on a second. Whoops. Okay. Vishabandhari Namasashi Leke Lalita Sati Guna Ramita Vishake Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Karuna Bharate Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Karuna Bharate Sanaka Sanatana Vanita Charite Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Gokula Taruni Mandala Maya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Bol, oh, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, let you go, Hare Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvatikacharya, also Teta Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chalana Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Marshila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Vilas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shitwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shishi Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagadasami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasidevi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarane. Okay. Let me read the translation of the very nice poem written by Srila Rupa Goswami called Shri Radhika Stava. O Radha, all glories unto you. All glories unto you, beloved of Madhava, object of worship for all the young girls of Gokula. You dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you. You are controller of Vrindavan, the pleasure groves of Lord Hari. You are the new moon risen from the ocean of Kirtada, Vrishabhanu. You are the friend of Lila, and your wonderful qualities, friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna, endear you to Vishaka. You are an ocean of compassion, and your divine characteristics are described by the four Kumaras. Sanaka, Sanatan, Sananda, and Sanat Kumara. O Radha, please be merciful to me. Jai. So, now we're going to continue with our reading of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. And so, Om Ganat Timiranda Shah Garanjana Shlakaya Chakshur and Meditam. Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my divine spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So far in this chapter, which is chapter 7 in the Antya Lila, we're reading about some of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interactions with Balabhabhata, who is the head of the Balabhacharya Sampradaya, which is called Pushti Marg. And Balabhabhata previously had met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Balabhabhata had previously met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Vrindavan. I had a very nice exchange with him. But then he came to Jagannath Puri to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, began to praise Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, instead of saying, yeah, thank you for the praise, he actually glorified all the devotees, and it's described that Balabhabhata was like a glowworm compared to all the devotees, because Balabhabhata was proud of his erudition and his realization and his devotion. So Lord Chaitanya was trying to really bring him down to earth out of compassion, out of mercy. And then Balabhabhata, after some time, after becoming a little humble for some time, he decided to invite Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for prasadam, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed to come. Then after that, what happened is that he thought, well, let me display my erudition to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again. And how did he do that? Yeah, first he said, I have given a special interpretation of the holy name. Do you want to hear it? And Lord Chaitanya said, no, I don't want to hear it. And then he said, I have written a commentary on the Bhagavatam. And Lord Chaitanya said, I'm not interested in hearing it. And Lord Chaitanya, being very humble, said, I don't understand the Bhagavatam, so I'm not interested in hearing your commentary. And then after that, he approached, that is Balabhabhata, approached Gadadhar Pandit and basically made friends with him and hung out a lot with him. And Lord Chaitanya's devotees were not too pleased with that, and some of them were a little upset with Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, and that's where we've left it off in yesterday's reading. Okay, let's continue. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Text 91. Prabhuro Pekshaya Sava Nilacha Lerajana Vatera Vyakyana Kichu Nakare Shravana. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not take Balabhabhata very seriously, none of the people in Jagannath Puri would hear any of his explanations. Lajita Kaila Bhata Haila Pamane Dukitaglana Gela Panditerastane. Ashamed, insulted, and unhappy, Balabhabhata went to Gadadhar Pandit. Dainyukari Nakahe Nilan Tamara Shanana Tumi Kripakari Raka Amara Jivana. Approaching him with great humility, Balabhabhata said, I have taken shelter of you, my dear sir. Kindly be merciful to me and save my life. Krishna Nama Vyakya Yadi Karaha Shavana Tavi Muralaja Panka Haya Prakshalana. Please hear my explanation of the meaning of Lord Krishna's name. In that way, the mud of the shame that has come upon me will be washed off. Sankati padila pandita kariye sangshaya ki karibena eko karitena pare nischaya. Thus Pandit Goswami fell into a dilemma. He was in such doubt that he could not decide alone what to do. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not take Balabhata very seriously. Therefore, Pandita Goswami or Gadadhara Goswami fell into perplexity. What would be his position if he heard Balabhata's explanation of Sri Krishna's name? Certainly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be displeased. Therefore, Gadadhara Pandit Goswami could not make a decision. There's a conflict, because Gadadhara Pandit Goswami was incarnation in the Panchatattva of Srimati Radharani, but Srimati Radharani in a submissive mood. So there's this particularly Bam, or the left-handed mood of Srimati Radharani, in which Srimati Radharani would argue with Krishna and nag Krishna, just like Satyabhama did too. But Gadadhara Pandit did not exhibit that particular mood. Some of the acharyas describe that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stole that mood, and he was manifesting that particular mood. So Gadadhara Pandit Goswami was very worried. Is Lord Chaitanya going to be upset with me for hearing from this Balabhata in spite of Lord Chaitanya not wanting to hear from him? Didyapi Pandadara Nakailangi Kara Batayai Tabupade Kari Balatkara. Although Gadadhara Pandit Goswami did not want to hear it, Balabhata began to read his explanation with great force. Phew. Abhijatye Pandita Karite Nare Nishenana E Sankate Raka Krishna La Ilana Sharana. Because Balabhata was a learned Brahmin, Gadadhara Pandit could not forbid him. Thus he began to think of Lord Krishna, my dear Lord Krishna. He requested, please protect me in this danger. I've taken shelter of you. Antaryami Prabhu Jani Bena Moramana Tanribaya Nahi Kichu Vishama Tanragana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is present in everyone's heart, and he will certainly know my mind. However, therefore, I do not fear him. His associates, however, are extremely critical. So, Prabhupada comments, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exists in everyone's heart. Therefore, he would know the circumstances under which Pandita Goswami agreed to hear Balabhata's explanations, and certainly he would not be angry. However, the Vaishnavas who were always with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu might not understand Gadadhara Pandit's inner consciousness, and they might accuse him of having compromised with Balabhata despite his having been neglected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhara Pandit Goswami was seriously thinking in this way. Yadyapi vichare panditera nahi kichu dosha tatapi prabodha gana tanre kare pradayarosha. Although Gadadhara Pandit Goswami was not in the least at fault, some of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees showed affectionate anger towards him. In other words, why are you listening to him? In other words, they weren't really angry with him, but they're sort of chastising him. They're saying, you shouldn't listen to him. Why are you listening to him? Why are you associating with him? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't want to hear from him. Prachaha Balabhata Aisi Prabhu Stane Udgrahari Prayakare Acharyadi Sane. Every day Balabhata would come to the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to engage in unnecessary arguments with Advaita Acharya and other great personalities such as Swarup Damodar. Ye Kachu Karebhata Siddhantastapana Shunite Acharya Taha Karena Kandana. Whatever conclusions Balabhata eagerly presented were refuted by personalities like Advaita Acharya. She was really getting smashed. Acharyadya Gibata Yabi Yabi Yaya Rajahangsa Majayena Rahivaka Praya. Whenever Balabhata entered the society of devotees headed by Advaita Acharya, he was like a hero in a society of white swans. Buck, of course, means like a duck. Like Bakasura. Text 103. Ekadina bata puchila achara hire jiva prakriti pati kare manaye krishnere. One day, Balabhata said to Advaitacharya, every living entity is female, Prakriti, and considers Krishna her husband, Pati. Pativratana patira nama nahi laya Tumara Krishna nama laha kondharma gaya. It is the duty of a chaste wife devoted to her husband not to utter her husband's name, but all of you chant the name of Krishna. How can this be called a religious principle? So this is a serious accusation that, we're all female in relationship to Krishna, and according to the strict tradition that the wife is not supposed to say the husband's name. She can say Pati Dev or Prabhu or Swami, which means master. I'm not saying that we have to do these things, but that's the tradition. And see, she's not supposed to say, hey Sam. So, therefore, because we have that relationship with Krishna, his logic was we're not supposed to say Krishna's name. Because we should just refer to him indirectly. The boss, Purushottama or something like that. Acharya kahe age tumara dharma murtiman in hari puchala inha akari bena in hara samadhana. Advaitacharya responded, in front of you is Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the personification of religious principles. You should ask him, for he will give you the proper answer. Shuni Prabhu Gahena Tumina Jana Dharma Marma Swami Yagya Pale Epativrata Dharma. Hearing this, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, my dear Balabhata, you do not know religious principles. Actually, the first duty of a chaste woman is to carry out the order of her husband. In other words, it's more important, rather than follow all these ritual things, to carry out Krishna's order. What is Krishna's order? Chant his holy name. Patiragya nirantaratanra nama lahite patiragya pativrata napari langite. The order of Krishna is to chant his name incessantly. Therefore, one who is chaste and devoted to the husband Krishna must chant the Lord's name, for she cannot deny her husband's order. Ataiva namalaya namera palapaya namera pale Krishna pade premopajaya. Following this religious principle, a pure devotee of Lord Krishna always chants the holy name. As a result of this, he gets the fruit of ecstatic love for Krishna. Shunya balabalaba Shuniya Valabhabhata Haila Nirvachana Gariyai Mane Duke Karenan Chintana. Hearing this, Balabhabhata was speechless. He returned home greatly unhappy and began to consider thus. Nichamara he sabaya haya kakshapata ekadina pareyade hayamora Tabe sukahoya ara sabalachaya swabachana stapite amiki kare upaya. Every day, I'm defeated in this assembly. If by chance I'm one day victorious, that will be a great source of happiness for me, and all my shame will go away. But by what means shall I adopt to establish my statements? In other words, he was simply interested in being victorious. He wasn't interested in the truth. He was interested in defeating and showing his superiority. So, therefore, Krishna took away his intelligence. So, Aratina Asivasila Prabhupada Namaskari Sabhate Kahena Kichu Mane Garva Kare. The next day, when he came to the assembly of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he sat down after offering obeisances to the Lord and says something with great pride. Bhagavate Swambhira Vyakyana Kairachi Kandana Lahite Naparitanra Vyakyana Vachana. In my commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, he said, I have refuted the explanations of Siddhara Swami I cannot accept his explanations. Sevakya karena vyahan ye pariyani eka vakyata nahi tate swami nahi mani. Whatever Sridhar Swami reads, he explains according to the circumstances. Therefore, he is inconsistent in his explanations and cannot be accepted as an authority. Prabhu hase kahe swami namane ye jana vishara bitare tare kariye gadana. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu smilingly replied, one who does not accept a swami, because swami also means husband, as an authority, I consider a prostitute. In other words, Bhagavata, you are out to lunch. You're a prostitute. You're not accepting the authority. Eka kahi Mahaprabhu monadar shunya sabaramane santosha hila. After saying this, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu became very grave. All the devotees present derived great satisfaction from hearing this statement. Jagatera hita lagi gauravatara antarera bimana janena tahara. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu descended as an incarnation for the benefit of the entire world. Thus he knew the mind of Ballabhabhata very well. In other words, Lord Chaitanya was very angry at Ballabhabhata. So his anger was not there because of frustration, but his anger was there out of compassion. So sometimes anger is necessary to protect someone, either philosophically, physically, or whatever other way. Nana avagyane vate shonena bhagavan Krishna yache kandilena indrera bhimana. By various hints and refutations, Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, corrected Ballabhabhata exactly as Krishna had cut down the false pride of Indra. And Prabhupada comments that Indra, the king of heaven, was very proud of his position. Therefore, when the residents of Vrindavan decided not to perform the Indra Yajna, but instead to perform the Govardhan Yajna in accordance with the instructions of Krishna, Indra, because of his false pride, wanted to chastise the residents of Vrindavan. Thinking himself extremely powerful, Indra poured incessant rain upon Vrindavana. But Lord Krishna immediately cut down his pride by lifting Govardhan Hill as an umbrella to save the residents of Vrindavan. In this way, Krishna proved Indra's power most insignificant in the presence of his own omnipotence. Agnajiva nija kite ahita karimane garbhakchurna hele pache ughadi nayane. An ignorant living being does not recognize his actual profit because of ignorance and material pride. He sometimes considers profit a loss, but when his pride is cut down, he can actually see his true benefit. Gariyasi ratrevata chintite lagila purve prayage more mahakripa kaila. Returning home that night, Ballabhabhata thought, previously at Prayag, Lord Chaitanya was very kind to me. Swajana sahite mora manhila nimantrana ebe kena praburan mote pirigela mana. He accepted my invitation with his other devotees and he was very kind to me. Why has he now changed so much here at Jagannath Puri? Amijiti he garba shunya auka inhara chita ishvara svabhava karena sabakara hita. Being very proud of my learning, I am thinking, let me become victorious. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, however, is trying to purify me by nullifying this false pride. For a characteristic of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is that he acts for everyone's welfare. In other words, you may not understand why Krishna is doing something at a particular time, but he's doing it for your welfare. Apanajanaye ami karyabhimana se garva kandidaite mora karena pamana. I am falsely proud, advertising myself as a learned scholar. Therefore, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu insults me just to favor me by cutting down this false pride. Amara hita karena inho iho ami mani dukkha krishnero apare kaila yena indra maha murga. He is actually acting for my benefit, although I interpret his actions as insults. This is exactly like the incident in which Lord Krishna cut down Indra, the great puffed-up fool, to correct him. So he's actually becoming humble at this point. Eta chinti pratayasi prabhura chanane, dainya kari stuti kari la ila sharane. Thinking in this way, Balabhavata approached Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu the next morning and in great humility offering many prayers. He sought shelter and surrendered at the lotus feet of the Lord. Ami jiva anochita karma kailun tumara age murkahami panditya prakashilun. Balabhavata admitted, I am a great fool, and indeed I have acted like a fool by trying to demonstrate my learning to you. Tumi Ishvara Nichochita Kripa Ye Karila Apamana Kari Sarva Garva Kandaila. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have showed mercy to me in a way just befitting your position by insulting me to cut down all my false pride. Ami Yagdakita Stane Mani Apamane Indrayena Krishnara Ninda Karila Arjuna. Wow. So at least, he took a humble position. That's good quality. I'm an ignorant fool, for I interpret as an insult what is meant for my benefit. In this way, I'm just like King Indra, who out of ignorance tried to surpass Krishna, the Supreme Lord. Tomara Kripa Adjane Ebagarva Andyagila Tumi Eta Kripa Kaila Evigyana Kaila. My dear Lord, you have cured the blindness of my false pride by smearing my eyes with the ointment of your mercy. You have bestowed so much mercy upon me that my ignorance is now gone. Aparada Kainu Kshama Lahinu Sharana Kripakari Moranate Taraha Charana. My dear Lord, I have committed offenses. Please excuse me, I seek shelter of you. Please be merciful unto me by placing your lotus feet on my head. Prabhu Kahe Tumi Pandita Mahabhagavata Dvi Kunayahan Tahanahi Garva Parvata. Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, you are both a greatly learned scholar and a great devotee. Wherever there are two such attributes, there cannot be a mountain of false pride. Shridhar Swami Nindi Nijatika Kara Shridhar Swami Nahi Mana Eta Garva Dara. You have dared criticize Shridhar Swami, and you have begun your own commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, not accepting his authority. That is your false pride. Shridhar Swami Prasade Bhagavata Jani Jagat Guru Shridhar Swami Guru Karimani. Shridhar Swami is the spiritual master of the entire world. Because by his mercy we can understand Srimad Bhagavatam, I therefore accept him as a spiritual master. And actually, Srila Prabhupada, when he wrote his Bhaktivedanta commentaries on the Srimad Bhagavatam, he would always consult the commentary of Shridhar Swami. And of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and others. Shridhara Upare Garve Ye Kichu Likive Artha Vyasta Likanase Loke Na Manive. Whatever you might write due to false pride, trying to surpass Shridhar Swami would carry a contrary purport. Therefore, no one would pay attention to it. And Prabhupada comments, Srimad Bhagavatam has many tikas, or commentaries, following the Parampara system, but Shridhar Swami's is the first. The commentaries of all the other acharyas follow his. The Parampara system does not allow one to deviate from the commentaries of the previous acharyas. By depending upon the previous acharyas, one can write beautiful commentaries. However, one cannot defy the previous acharyas. The false pride that makes one think that he can write better than the previous acharyas will make one's comments faulty. At the present moment, it has become fashionable for everyone to write in his own way, but such writing is never accepted by serious devotees. Because of false pride, every scholar and philosopher wants to exhibit his learning by interpreting the Shastras, especially the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, in his own way. This system of commenting in one's own way is fully condemned by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he says, Artha Vyasta Likana say. Commentaries written according to one's own philosophical way are never accepted. No one will appreciate such commentaries on the revealed scriptures. Shirarera anugata yekari likana savaloka manya kari karibe grahana. One who comments on Srimad Bhagavatam following in the footsteps of Sridhar Swami will be honored and accepted by everyone. Shidhara nugata kara bhagavata vyakyana abhimana chari bhaja Krishna Bhagavan. Put forth your explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam following in the footsteps of Sridhar Swami, giving up your false pride. Worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Aparadachari kara Krishna Sankirtana Achirat Pave Tabe Krishnera Charana. Abandoning your offenses, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the holy names of the Lord. Then, very soon, you will achieve shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Vatakahe Yarimore Haila Prasana Ekatina Punamora Manani Mantrana. Ballabhabhata Acharya requested the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you were actually pleased with me, please accept my invitation once again. Prabhu avatirna haila jagat tarite mani lena nimantrana tari sukha dite. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had descended to deliver the entire universe, accepted the invitation of Ballabhabhata just to give him happiness. Jagatera hita hauka e prabhura mana dandakari karitara hridaya shodhana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always eager to see everyone in the material world happy. Therefore, sometimes he chastises someone just to purify his heart. Like we were just talking about the other day with Mukunda, how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was upset with Mukunda Dat because Mukunda Dat was going to various assemblies of devotees and half-devotees. You know, he was extremely liberal and sitting through so many assemblies. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you know, he doesn't respect my swarup. And when the devotees asked, are you going to give your mercy to Mukunda? Lord Chaitanya said, no, because he doesn't accept my swarup. And then the devotee, Mukunda was getting ready to commit suicide. And then when the devotees asked Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when will you give him your mercy? Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in millions of verses, Mukunda became very happy, showing his utsahan nisya daryat, patience and determination. And then Lord Chaitanya said, your millions of years of birth have been actually taken care of by your enthusiasm, and he gave him pure love of God. But there was chastisement there. When Ballabhabhata invited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, the Lord was very pleased with him. Jagadananda Panditera Shuddha Gara Bhava Sachabhama Praya Prema Vamya Swabhava. Jagadananda Pandit's pure ecstatic love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very deep. It can be compared to the love of Satyabhama, who always quarreled with Lord Krishna. So that's Bham, Bhama, that means left-handed. In a similar mood to Srimati Radharani. Bara bara pranaya kalaha kari prabhu sane anyondye katmati chaledui chane. Jagadananda Pandit was accustomed to provoking loving quarrels with the Lord. There was always some disagreement between them. Gadadhara Panditera Shuddha Gara Bhava Rukmini Devira Yaiche Dakshina Swabhava. Dakshina Swabhava means his nature was right-handed or submissive. Swabhava, his nature was submissive rather than argumentative like we just read about Jagadananda Pandit. Gadadhara Pandit's pure ecstatic love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also very deep. It was like that of Rukmini Devi, who was always especially submissive to Krishna. So he never argued with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing some anger towards him, he never manifested any contrary emotion. Tanarpanaya Rosha Dekite Parabora Ichahaya Aishvarya Kitane Tanarosha Nahi Prajaya. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes desired to see Gadadhar Pandit's affection and anger, but because of his knowledge of the Lord's opulences, his anger was never invoked. And so we hear something about the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Joking with Rukmini Devi in Dwarka, Krishna once advised her to accept another husband because he was unfit for her. And actually, Krishna and Rukmini Devi, they were grandparents at that time. But because of the spiritual body, they both look like 16 or 18 years old. Rukmini Devi, however, unable to understand his joking words, took them very seriously and immediately fell to the ground in fear of separation from him. In the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagadananda Pandit was always in disagreement with the Lord like Satyabhama, whereas Gadadhar Pandit was always awed by the Lord's opulence and was therefore submissive to the Lord under all circumstances. And of course we know that Satyabhama, when she saw that Rukmini had gotten the Parijata flower, she nagged the Lord, and finally the Lord had to get her a whole Parijata plant and fight with all the demigods in order to do that. E Lakshapana Prabhu Kaila Rusha Vasa Shuni Panditera Chite Upajila Trasa. For this purpose, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes showed his apparent anger. Hearing of this anger inspired great fear in the heart of Gadadhar Pandit. Purve hena Krishna yare parihasa kaila shuni rukmini ramane trasa upajila. Previously, in Krishna Lila, when Lord Krishna joked with Rukmini Devi, she took his words seriously and fear awoke within her mind. Balabhavatera haya vatsalya upasana balagopala mantre teno karena sevana. Balabhavata was accustomed to worshipping the Lord as child Krishna. Therefore, he had been initiated into the Balagopala mantra and was thus worshipping the Lord. And we know that followers of Vallabhacharya, they love to worship Balagopala, Ladu Gopal actually. Panditera Sanitara Manapiri Gela Kishora Gopala Upasanaya Manadila. In the association of Gadadhar Pandit, his mind was converted, and he dedicated his mind to worshipping Kishora Gopal, Krishna as a young boy. Panditeratani chahe mantrari shikite panditakahi e karmanahi amahete. Balabhavata wanted to be initiated by Gadadhar Pandit, but Gadadhar Pandit refused, saying, the work of acting as a spiritual master is not possible for me. Ami paratantra Amara Prabhu Gorachandra Tanra Vatya Vina Amina Hai Aswatantra. I am completely dependent. My Lord is Gorachandra Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I cannot do anything independently without his order. Tumiye Amaratani Kara Agamana Tahate Prabhu More Dena Olahana. My dear Balabhavata, your coming to me is not appreciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he sometimes speaks to chastise me. E mata bhatera kateka dina gela she yare prabhu tare suprasana haila nimantranera dine pandite bolaila sarupa jagadananda govinde patayla. Some days passed, and when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally pleased with Balabhavata, accepted his invitation, the Lord sent Swarup Damodar, Jagadananda Pandit, and Govinda to call for Gadadhar Pandit. Pate Panditere Swarupa Kahena Vachana Parikshite Prabhu Tamare Kaila Upekshana. On the way, Swarup Damodar said to Gadadhar Pandit, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to test you. Therefore he neglected you. Tumikane yasi tanre nadila olahana vita prayahana kanhe karila sahana. Why did you not retaliate by reproaching him? Why did you fearfully tolerate his criticism? Pandita Kahina Prabhu Swatantra Savagna Shirumani Tanra Sane Hatakari Bala Nahi Mane. Gadadhar Pandit said, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is completely independent. He is the topmost omniscient personality. It would not look well for me to talk to him as if I were his equal. So in other words, he had knowledge of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's opulence. So this is really interesting. Even though Gadadhar Pandit Goswami is Radharani in the Panchatattva, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. He's the Shakti Tattva, Radharani, the Adi Shakti. Still, he's Radharani in the mood of Chandravali, which is more of a mood of awe and reverence. And actually, even in a mood like of Rukmini, understanding the Lord's greatness. Whereas Radharani's normal mood is forgetting who Krishna is ontologically and just thinking, I love him, I just want to please him. And just thinking of him as the most beautiful, attractive young man. Ye kahe se sai nijashire dare apane karibena kripa guna gadosha vichari. I can tolerate whatever he says, bearing it upon my head. He will automatically be merciful to me after considering my faults and attributes. Etabali pandita prabhura stanaya ila rodana kariya prabhura chadane patila. After saying this, Gadadhar Pandit went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and fell down crying at the lotus feet of the Lord. Phew! Such submission. Ishat hasya prabhu kaila lingana sabhare shunana kahena madhura vachana. Smiling slightly, the Lord embraced them and spoke sweet words so that others would also hear. Ami chalailun toma tumina chalila krode kachu na kahila sakala sahila. I wanted to agitate you, the Lord said, but you did not become agitated. Instead, you could not say anything in anger. Instead, you tolerated everything. Amara vangite tamara mana na chalila sutrada saralababe amara kinila. Your mind was not disturbed by my tricks. Rather, you stayed fixed in your simplicity. In this way, you have purchased me. Panditera baba mudra kahana nayaya ganda gadadara prana nata nama haila yaya. No one can describe the characteristics and ecstatic love of Gadadhar Pandit. Therefore, another name for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Gadadhara Prananatha, the life and soul of Gadadhar Pandit. Pandite Prabhura Prasada Kahana Nayaya Gadaira Goranga Bale Yanre Lokai Gaya. No one can say how merciful the Lord is to Gadadhar Pandit, but people know the Lord is Gadaira Goranga, the Lord Goranga of Gadadhar Pandit. And actually you see in the Gaudiya Math, generally the deities being worshipped are Gaur Gadadhar deities, not Gaur Nitai deities. And Srila Prabhupada established the worship of Gaur Nitai deities all over ISKCON to show us that we need the mercy of Lord Nityananda. The worship of Gaur Gadadhar is a very exalted worship. Chaitanya Prabhu Lila Ke Bushite Pare Ekalilaya Vahe Gangara Shata Sata Dare. No one can understand the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They are like the Ganges, for hundreds and thousands of branches flow from even one of his branches. Panditera Sojanya Ramanyata Guna Drita Prema Mudra Loke Karila Kyapana. Gadadhar Pandit is celebrated all over the world for his gentle behavior, his Brahminical attributes, and his steady love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So today we read from 91 to 166. Very nice. Okay, so now we can stop sharing and take questions. Let me just unmute you all, or allow you all to unmute yourselves. Okay, so you can ask a question by typing in the chat window, raising your hand, or unmuting yourself. Okay, Rishikesh, you have a question. Oh, I thought you had a question. Okay, so who else has a question? Either raise your hand.
Krishna,
Okay,
Krishna. I was
Rishikesh.
just
Yeah, Rishikesh has a question. Okay.
so Gurudev. Lately the Bhagavad Gita as it is version has been edited. So question has been raised whether this is really Vaishnava ethical standards to edit the words of acharyas like Srila Prabhupada. Is that ethical?
You were asking a very controversial question there. And Prabhupada actually instructed specifically Jayadvaita Swami. He said, whatever Jayadvaita Swami edits, that should be accepted. So Prabhupada personally appointed Jayadvaita Swami as his editor. Um,
Okay.
and so uh, there is some talk right now. I mean, just to be honest, I am honest. There is some talk right now about re-examining some of the editing changes that Jayadvaita Maharaj did, and some of them were actually done when Jayadvaita Maharaj went back to the original manuscript of the Gita. I mean, it's really complicated, and so. But anyway, there's some discussion about going back and the GBC reviewing those particular changes, because some of the writing, some of the editing was done by Hayagriva in the beginning, and it's not completely like what Prabhupada said. Like in the first edition of the Gita, there's this statement, "planet of the trees" or something like that, and it was actually the pit trees instead of the planet of the trees. So sometimes they heard what Prabhupada said wrong. There's more explanation than that, but uh, basically the devotees have not done anything with an offensive attitude, and if there's been any changes that were unnecessary, that were taking things away from Prabhupada's words, those changes will be brought back, or the original will be brought back. So it's an ongoing revision that's happening right now. So thank you for your question. It's actually a good question, but
Thank you,
rather
Gurudev.
rather controversial. So okay, Madhava, you have a
Hare
question.
Krishna. Yeah, Dandvat Maharaj. So two questions. First, as I understand, this devotee Vallabh Bhatta was under the Vallabhacharya Sampradaya, which is a bhakti cult. And
Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Vallabhacharya, they were very complementary. They had a lot of respect for each other. They appeared similar times. So where this Vallabha Bhatta, what he learned from that sampradaya, and then here he's debating Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's hard to understand what was the purpose, And then this Pushti Marg, the second question, what they worship, what is their concept, how it is different kind of bhakti, what's their goal?
Well, basically they're worshiping mostly in the Pushti Marg. They're worshiping in the parental relationship, because that's why they have mainly the Ladu Gopal. You see that mainly the Ladu Gopal deity, or like Srinachi and things like that. So they're worshiping in that particular mood. Whereas Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is primarily teaching the conjugal relationship between Radha and Krishna. Now, the reason Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu interacted with Vallabhacharya, and Vallabhacharya was a bona fide acharya, don't get me wrong, and his followers are bona fide devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the reason Lord Chaitanya was interacting with him was to cure Vallabhacharya's false pride in his learning. Uh, I believe his son was Vitalesha or something. Yeah, Vitalesha or something was, but I forget the name. I may be wrong with Vallabhacharya's son. But they were very educated Brahmanas. Vallabhacharya uh, published a lot of works. He's famous for this Madhurashtakam. You've heard of the Madhurashtakam before?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a beautiful song, which I sing sometimes in the morning for the deities.
So this Vallabh Bhatta is same thing, Vallabhacharya.
Yeah, Vallabhabhata is the acharya of, and he's called Vallabhacharya. Yeah, uh,
Oh,
when he was when he was called Vallabhabhata, he wasn't hmm, he wasn't an acharya, but later on he became recognized as an acharya. Uh, Sumati Moraji, who gave Prabhupada the boat passage across the ocean to America, was a follower of Vallabhacharya. She was a member of the Pushti Marg. A little bit of interesting history. One time, I mean, it's an interesting story. The one time she heard the story about Lord Chaitanya chastising Vallabhacharya, or Vallabhabhata, which is the same person, and she got upset because that story was published in the Back to Godhead magazine. So Prabhupada cautioned the devotees to be very careful about publishing anything that might uh, directly or indirectly criticize one of the acharyas. So Vallabhacharya is bona fide. We respect him. He's very prominent. His devotees are very prominent in Braj, in the whole area of Vrindavan. Okay.
Gurudev, I'm also from Pusti Marg. I mean, my parents are from Pusti Marg. I was just curious to know, I mean, they are staunch followers of Vallabhacharya,
Yes.
but they never heard about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Nityananda, this Panchatattva at all. So I
I
was just
don't know
wondering.
why. I don't know why. I mean, it's a little controversial, especially getting initiated, as we're going to read. Vallabhacharya got initiated by Gadadhar Pandit Goswami.
Right, yeah.
So I can't answer why they never heard about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they were contemporaries, and the story in the Chaitanya Charitamrta actually occurred because it was told by Raghunath Das Goswami to Krishnadas Kapiraj Goswami, because Raghunath Das Goswami was there to witness it, and of course Swarup Damodar was there to worship it. Swarup Damodar Goswami and the other associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I don't know. Maybe because it reflected in a negative way upon Balabhacharya that the story wasn't told. I mean, certainly that's the etiquette when there's a particular story that may reflect negatively upon an acharya in his past, then one has to be very careful in approaching that particular story and may not even tell that particular story, how the acharya got corrected. So I can't answer exactly why they don't know, but Balabhacharya was definitely connected with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he wrote his commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and his son was a famous scholar too. He wrote many books. Balabhacharya wrote many, many, many books. He was actually a fantastic scholar. So
Thank you, Gurudev.
okay,
Thank you.
so let's see. Wow, we got another. It's a lot of questions here. So this is Hare Krishna Gurudev, please. Is Rukmini Dev incarnation of Gadara Pandit and Satyabhama's incarnation of Kunda? No. Gadadhar is an incarnation of Radharani, but his mood is submissive because the acharyas describe that Lord Chaitanya was exhibiting the unsubmissive mood of Radharani, so it wouldn't be appropriate for Gadadhar to exhibit that too. And uh, as far as Satyabhama appeared as Jagadananda Pandit, who was one of Lord Chaitanya's associates who would actually always talk back to Lord Chaitanya. And there's many stories in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about the interaction between Lord Chaitanya and Jagadananda Pandit, and how he would even get angry at Lord Chaitanya, got angry at Sanatana Goswami. Many stories like that. So, Next is Amrita Karan.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Haribol.
All gracious Srila Prabhupada. Actually, Vallabha Charja, they are, we are in the mood of like, in our sampradaya, some are in the parental mode, some are in the
Conjugal.
conjugal mode, like that. But in Vallabha Sampradaya, they are only in the parental mode, or they are not in any other.
Primarily in the parental mood. That's what I have heard. I've not studied extensively the Vallabhacharya Sampradaya, but they're primarily in the parental mood, and they worship Ladu Gopal.
Yeah. A lot of them are in the Vrindavan and surrounding, like.
Yeah, so I'm sure some of them are in the conjugal mood. Some, there's mixed. I mean, just look Lord Chaitanya's. Many of Lord Chaitanya's associates are actually in different moods too. The friendship mood, Sakya Ras, or Vatsalya Ras. So I'm sure that some of Vallabhacharya's associates are also in conjugal mood.
Another question, Guru Maharaj, is like Siddhar Swami is how many years ago he appeared before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Approx.
It was several hundred years. Let me just look up. Sridhara
It's 200 years.
history. Let's see. What? Whoops. Well, I have the wrong Sridhar Swami here. Anyway, several hundred years before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I don't remember the exact date right now. I'd have to look it up.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see, another question or two. Priya Gopi.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
My blessings.
I have a question. Thank you, Gurudev. I have a question. Now, in one of the verse, I forgot the text number. Like you said, even when we have read Nectar of Devotion in Bhakti Shastri or reading Gita Govinda, you see the gopis are considered as left-handed, right-handed, left wing, and right wing. What is this, and why are they? What is this like?
Well, right wing means submissive. They never talk back to Krishna.
Okay.
Left wing is like Satyabhama or Srimati Radharani or Lalita, that they talk back to Krishna and they even argue with Krishna and they have man. You hear about Radharani's man, her anger sometimes.
Yes, yes.
And so that's left wing.
Okay.
Left
So
wing.
in that way, they're categorized left and right.
Left and right. The Vam and Dakshina.
Okay.
Vam is
Okay.
left and Dakshina is right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Gurudev. Thank
Okay.
you.
And I think that's all we have time for today. I know I have two more hands up, but I think we will end since I do want to go too late here. So thank you all for joining us. It was an interesting class and interesting questions today. Okay, all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Ki